Back by popular demand, it's time to have your say. Welcome back to the live Q&A, answering your questions live. It's SCW Live Q&A right here on the YouTube channel. Thanks for joining. So you know how this goes. Get yourselves involved in the comment section and get yourself a shout out live, as well as having your question answered as well. Could be any topic, WWE, AEW, as long as it's wrestling related, we're happy to answer it today. And of course, I've got a very special guest with me here today from the podcast this week on Metropolis. Move over Miro. He is the real best man, the best man to my wedding. It's James. How are you doing, James?
How you doing, buddy? Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on, and wanting to do this for a long time, having you on the Q&A, but it's great to finally have you. How are you doing this Wednesday?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Got a beer. I'm on the show. I mean, what more could I want?
Well, hopefully some questions will probably be what we're after. But just quickly before we do, for those that are not aware of This Week in Metropolis, just give people a little bit of a shout of what it's all about and where they can follow you.
Yeah, it's a weekly podcast about pop culture. We talk about news that's caught our eye in the past week. It's myself and my co-host King Porteous, aka Matt. We just talk a load of nonsense, really. You've been on it, Steve. I'm sure you'd agree. We just talk about all random stuff. We have been in the last few series had guests on our show, but we're now going back to just for a little period of time. We might have the occasional guest like yourself. You never know. Pop up occasionally, but when we come back for our 8th season, there's some fresh ideas coming. So keep an eye out.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's a great podcast. And like you say, I was very fortunate to be on there as well, and recommend everyone goes and checks it out. It's on YouTube. The link for YouTube is in the description, so you can go and subscribe to the channel. It's also on your favorite podcast platforms as well. Spotify, Apple, Google, even the ones that we've never even heard of. It's on those ones as well. But
anywhere that will take us.
If you can find it, it's there. So that's the good news. But literally, we've got people in the comments already. It's great to see everyone here. And we've got BWF Wrestling Podcast. Hey, lads, how are you doing? Thank you for checking out the stream. And as well as that, Ed Fries is here with us as well. Says, hey, Steve. Hey, James. What are you guys' thoughts on the new NXT logo and Samoa Joe's promo from last night? So, kicking things off then. James, I mean, I gave my thoughts before about the logo, but I'd like to get your thoughts about what you feel of the new NXT logo.
It's a funny one for me because looking at the logo, taking it away from wrestling, I love the design. But when I then connect it with NXT, it doesn't quite fit for me. Just the contrast in styles, maybe. I feel like NXT is kind of the gritty, show out of the three, obviously. If I was going to use that sort of logo, it would probably be something like SmackDown. That kind of style. So that's why it didn't quite work for me. But on its own, taking it away from what it's part of, I think it's a cool design.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't hate it. This is the thing, but I don't love it either because, like you said there's an ideology of what NXT is meant to represent. And of course, we know that's changing, but damn it, I'm a creature of habit. I'm used to the black and gold brand. Do you know what I mean? We're seeing this. It's a lot of a brighter effect. Are we coming away from the heavy metal music that goes over these sort of themes for shows? Are we going more in that sort of pop culture kind of way where, we might be getting the Flow Riders that are doing the sort of songs for the pay-per-views? Probably perhaps not Flow Rider these days, but you go back to the old sort of WrestleManias, that's what you'd get. Do you know what I mean? So maybe we're going back to that sort of style and maybe that's what we're going to try and do with NXT. We're going to see over the next few weeks what we'll get. But Samoa Joe's promo last night, it was quite impactful. He seemed like that he's ready for all challenges. He's ready to get back in the ring, and it feels like that Samoa Joe's here to stay. Would you agree, Jay?
Yeah, I'd agree. And what I liked as well is that it wasn't like the big I am as such. I felt it was like he wants to set the standard, and that's what people have got to reach. But it wasn't too much. There wasn't a cockiness about it, I wouldn't say. I felt it was quite genuine.
I would have to agree with that. And he's such a natural Samoa Joe. Anything that he says, you tend to really believe. We've got Martin Correa as well, throwing questions in for us as well. And he says, will CM Punk bring more pay-per-view buys for AEW going forward? Same as how Kenny Omega did for Impact Wrestling? Now, that's a very interesting question indeed. Do you think the buy rates for All Out will be the highest in AEW history?
Yes, 100%. I mean, we've spoke about this off the show, and I honestly think CM Punk going to AEW is a game changer in itself. Whether he's wrestling every week, whether he's turning up, occasionally, it's still a huge pull for them. And I am starting to see a shift in the pendulum as such with regards to the battle between WWE and AEW purely on the acquisition of CM Punk, because that pop in Chicago was something for the ages, I think. And I honestly think the pull that he will have, because he has got such a huge following, the only thing WWE can do now to rival that, for me personally, is when they bring The Rock back. That is literally the only thing I think they can do.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. And I mean, the thing is, CM Punk, I think it's going to be the biggest buy rate for them. You saw what Rampage, the ratings were when he came in, was phenomenal. It was over the 1.1 million mark, which, remember, for Friday night shows as well, people are out on Fridays. We saw Dynamite on Friday throughout the summer for a month, and they did like 500 something thousand viewers. Rampage has done okay. It seems to have gone around 700, but then with Punk, it was like 1.1 or 1.3, something around there. It's dropped back this last week to like 700,000. But of course, I think when it comes to the pay-per-view, everyone's going to want to see CM Punk in the ring, and it's going to be special. I do think, like you say, CM Punk is going to make shifts, is going to move numbers. It's going to be that similar way as what Kenny Omega did for Impact's buy rates on pay-per-view. So I'm excited to see what CM Punk brings to the table. I think sooner or later, the nostalgia will warm off on people. They won't just want to hear what CM Punk's got to say. He's going to need to do something. Would you agree, Jay, that perhaps he's going to need to, I don't know, change the culture, let's say?
Definitely. And like you said there, the numbers have gone back down again on the week when he wasn't on there. I know I think they've done a little promo or something, or maybe just I didn't watch the show, so I don't know what they've done, but there was something on there about him. And it didn't get the same hits. That's where they'll have to kind of find a way of bridging that gap. I think bringing CM Punk in, like I said, makes a huge difference for them. But they've still got to match it on a week-to-week basis and try and hit that kind of, get more consistency on them higher numbers with or without him when he's on the show. And that's where the other guys in the locker room need to up their game to kind of bring that attention to it. But yeah, he definitely needs to do something. I'm sure people will ask questions throughout this show, but I think it's very interesting that they're putting him with Darby to start with. I was talking to someone about this the other day, and we said it's an interesting thing to do, because for me, Darby doesn't actually need that rub off of someone like CM Punk. He's got Sting next to him. That's a big enough rub as it is. So I'm intrigued to see what they do there, where Darby's kind of the homegrown, ready-made. He's come through AEW from the start. He's already got that following. He doesn't need that boost. So I think it's interesting, and I can't see CM Punk losing on his first fight back. So I don't know where they're going with necessarily that storyline just yet. Will it be just a one-off match? We'll have to wait and see. But there's a lot of potential. I think there's some absolute dream matches there.
Absolutely, indeed. And like you said, Darby, and it's an interesting choice. But I mean, God, what a position for Darby. Like you say, he's already got Sting in the corner. He's now got this match here. Arguably could even be a main event of the show. And that would be big for itself for Darby as well. Like you say, he doesn't need the win. He gets an even bigger rub just like this. And perhaps it furthers that position maybe to get towards the top end of the card later on. But fantastic question, that one then. Like you say, I'm sure we'll be touching more on CM Punk as we go through the stream. But Jamie Holmes is in house. Thank you, Jamie, for your question. With Penelope Ford and the Bunny Alliance, do you think Anna Jay will return to even at the numbers for Ty Conti? She sent a tweet about Chicago, coincidentally the all-out location. Of course, as well, the same for Dynamite tonight and Rampage on Friday. Ty Conti is taking on Penelope Ford this evening. Could we get the return of Anna Jay? I think it's a really great shout from Jamie. I'd really like to see that happen. What do you feel, Jay?
Yeah, I don't know a great deal about her, but I've seen bits and pieces. It would certainly add another top competitor to the mix, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, like you say, I mean, we've got the Casino Battle Royale coming this Sunday on the buy-in as well, so that obviously gives another competitor in there. Anna Jay and Tay Conti were involved in that tag team tournament last summer as well, so they kind of got that good connection. It's what kind of brought Ty as well closer to the Dark Order. So there's all these different intangibles there that make this really interesting. I think, Jamie, you're onto something there. I reckon if we need to give you some credit if that happens.
They need it as well, don't they? In the women's division, there they need kind of that decent talent coming through. That's the one area I would say that they've lacked. And if you add someone like her into it, then it's only going to benefit the company.
I have to agree entirely. BWF there. Do you guys see as many takeovers with the reboot, or do you think they'll just be the big pay-per-views? Interesting shout. Well, Jay, if you don't mind me just taking this first, the understanding is that Halloween Havoc will be a weekly show this year once again. That's broken the rumor today, so that I believe is rumored around the 26th of October, which is the closest show I think for NXT. Yeah, I mean potentially, I think that we will see as many War Games, of course, usually Survivor Series weekend. What do you feel, Jay? Do you think they'll stick to the big four, or do you reckon we'll actually have what we usually get with takeovers? We have about 6 of them a year.
They've still got the talent there. That's the thing, and I can't imagine they're not going to want to showcase it. So I would hope that they carry on with the schedule that they've got at the moment. I think, takeovers have become. I mean, we've spoken about in past shows where I was a huge fan of NXT. I do feel it's gone off the boil a little bit, but it was the one that I looked forward to. And takeovers were by far, even on the big weekends, they were the show that you wanted to see. So, I mean, it really depends in the direction that they take it with the superstars that they've got on there. But yeah, I mean, what about you? What do you think?
I would hope that they stick with the same sort of total they've got now of takeovers, because it's great exposure for the superstars that they've got. Like you say, though, with the potential reboot that we've got coming, we don't know what we're going to see over the next few weeks. So many talents could change. We get a load of new faces in. Loads of talents there could get released or moved up to Raw and SmackDown. So it's hard to know what's going to be the future of NXT. But what I'd say is, if I had to predict now, I think there'll be the same amount of takeovers as what we currently already got, because WWE loves a market scheme, and it's great for Peacock, and they want to keep them people happy. They're paying all that money. So I think that they stick about.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I'd agree.
Well, we've got Brian Briscoe with us now. It says, wait in 2 weeks when the next changes. Wouldn't it be if they strip everybody of their belts? Not sure, but next UK as well. Well, I mean, I hope they don't do a Vince Russo and just completely say we're starting again like he did in WCW back in 2000. But what do you feel about NXT UK? Because that's an interesting point he makes there. We've not really seen NXT UK suffer with the releases and stuff like that. And obviously, it does have the lowest viewership of the WWE programs. But of course, we get great matches like Ilya Dragunov versus Volta. What's going to happen with the UK brand?
Well, interesting. I mean, that's all you hear about is all the different kind of countries that they want to kind of have other. I don't know whether they've even started NXT in India, but that was another one I heard, and I think China as well. Maybe with COVID, it's kind of all been disrupted. But with the UK, I don't watch it, but from what I see, tweets that people were talking about it, it's some of the best matches going. And obviously at Takeover, I did see the Dragunov match versus Volta. It was probably match of the night for me, which is saying something because of the other talent that's there in NXT, or that certainly was on that night. And that's a credit to NXT UK, really. And I think I've been to see a few shows in the UK, not NXT ones, but a few UK based ones. And the UK wrestling scene now is growing. And it's growing big, and the fact that NXT has its own UK show, is a sign of what is growing here. So I think, I don't think they'll crash all that down or stop it, whatever. So I think that will carry on.
I hope it carries on. I really, really do, because it's a great brand. NXT UK, like I said, they've got some great wrestling, even though it's not the highest viewed. And of course, that's what they need to probably try and work on to get more people to watch it. But at the same time, when we see matches like we've got on Takeover there with Dragunov and Volta,
do you think there needs to be more crossover? Do you think more to try and get it over more? Do you think some need to crop up? Even if it's for 3 or 4 weeks, just to come in and have a short feud with someone and then go back to the UK. I think it just gives them that little bit of exposure, even if it's on NXT in the States.
I would agree, because when you look at Worlds Collide last year, no one really knew who Dragunov was when he was at the Royal Rumble show. Now, this time when he's leaving with the NXT UK Championship, everyone's going, please don't go on this week's NXT. So it tells you exposure is the key for everything, you know. So, yeah, of course, COVID probably makes things a bit more difficult right now, but they've had some great talents come from NXT to be on the main NXT. And once they see these talents, maybe people will start saying, I need to go and see what's going on over there. So fingers crossed. But Byron also says that Impact needs a new and bigger broadcast deal. Rumors suggesting, now I had a question of this on my latest Q&A on the recorded version. Apparently Paramount Plus are interested in the States. So I wonder if that would be something that would be helping of the numbers and a bigger broadcast deal for Impact. But YouTube streaming platforms, I mean, do you think that would be the way forward really for Impact rather than a TV deal?
It can be, but at the same time, you have to look at your competitors in what they're doing. I mean, WWE are obviously at the top of the mountain on that with their deals that they've got, and that goes across both TV and streaming platforms. So, you know, it's a balancing act really. And are Impact going to get the big payouts at this moment with the brand that they've got? I mean, I think more eyes are on obviously AEW at the moment. Impact's kind of assisting with that, or they're assisting with Impact, if anything. I don't know. I think it would be a matter of seeing what happens with regards to how long the kind of crossover works. If you've got people keep coming from AEW, from New Japan, from Ring of Honor, say, then you're going to have more attention on it. But at the moment, it's kind of like the one, do you put your money on it? And that's what the broadcasters will look at. But if Paramount do, then obviously that's going to help them.
Yeah, I have to agree entirely on that. And that brings us nicely to a question from Martin Carrillo before we actually start our stream. What matches do you want to see on Bound for Glory? Now, of course, we do know that we've got 4 promotions under one roof for this show that will be coming up on October 24th. So we're expecting to see, of course, along with Impact Wrestling, AAA, AEW, New Japan. And after what happened at NWA, I wonder if we could get Mickie James representing there. I expect Deanna Prazo against Mickie James. I guess it's Christian Cage as the Impact champion. Perhaps he would want to go against an Impact competitor. Do you have any potential preferences who you'd want to see Christian Cage face, Jay?
I mean, Moose is in really good shape at the moment. I see he keeps posting things at the moment. I mean, he's one I actually wanted WWE to sign when his contract was running out in Impact. The only other thing with him is, has he had too many chances? Do you want to keep seeing the same people going for it? Who's the guy he's going to be fighting at the next pay-per-view, or is Bound for Glory the next pay-per-view?
We've got a Victory Road as the next one in September. So Christian Cage will take on Ace Austin. At the time of recording, Austin, I'm not aware of Moose's opponent on this, but I would expect that it could be Sami Callihan.
Well, and again, so Ace Austin, I really like him. I think he's a future star for me. I think he's got the lot. And then Then there's Sami Callihan, who again he could equally have an awesome match with Christian. So there's a few options there, but then you've also, like you just said, it could be someone from outside.
Absolutely. And one thing I will say just quickly, because we've seen Jay White around recently. I don't know if he's going to stick around or through the Bound for Glory. We did get the tease at Slammiversary of Bullet Club against the Elite. I know that it's a feud that it should really be somewhere else, but I want to see an Impact. Why not throw it on Bound for Glory? That would make that show really relevant for a lot of wrestling in the community. The buy rates would do really well, I'm sure. So, that's something I'd like to see.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely.
We'll do Martin Career's questions. They came through us before we went on the stream, but if I go otherwise, I'm going to lose them. We won't get a chance to get back to them. So as they came in first, we then can go in order as we get every question. So is Nia Jax the most unsafe women's wrestler? And what do you think about her wrestling skills, honestly? James, this is going to be a difficult one to touch carefully, but what are your thoughts on Nia Jax in the ring?
Well, I mean, I watched that match because I had a feeling it was going to pop up tonight in questions. There was certainly some stiff hits in that match, but that I think Charlotte was equally, giving some back in retaliation, and you know, I've seen a lot of reports on it, and it was a rough match. You know, like
Yeah.
not just them two with, you know, trying to actually like hitting each other, but the moves as well. Some of them were really loose and like you say, not safe at all. But it kind of, I don't know, it did ruin it. And I think at the time, as a competitor and an entertainer, you should still be trying to make it work. And I felt like, yes, Nia wasn't great in it, but I don't think Charlotte painted herself in any great light either, because she was not helping the situation. And I've seen wrestlers do that before, where if someone's not doing it right, they'll, Jericho's one, I think, who's done it before. I'm sure I've seen him where he's kind of started slapping the other wrestler about. But yeah, I wouldn't say she's the worst in the world. Yes, she's been involved in a lot of high profile things, but I've seen worse wrestlers. She's a big girl as well, so it's not easy for her. We can't just assume that what she can do. Yes, she's got that strength, but some of it is avoidable. But I think a lot of it's a two-way thing. It's a
Yeah.
dance at the end of the day, isn't it?
Absolutely, you're only as good as your partner when it's two to tango. But I would have to agree that Nia Jax is probably the most unsafe women's wrestler. I do get a bit nervous every time she's been in the ring. There's been a track record there with Kairi Sane, of course, a couple of times. It's not the first time with Charlotte Flair. She failed to catch her on a moonsault a few years ago, and literally it was Charlotte's leg that hit Nia Jax. That was it. She didn't catch her. So perhaps there's some previous history. Some rumors have suggested this would be a worked shoot stiff style that was done here. So it's like there's how do I say it? A worked shoot into a worked match, which is meant to be a worked shoot anyway. Make it what you want of that, but it is what it is. But with Nia Jax, unfortunately, not a biggest fan. I think she's great as a promo. I love her personality, the way she's sort of very dismissive on the microphone, but unfortunately, when it comes to the ring, it just isn't the same translation, sadly. But go on, James.
Just quickly, who is more unsafe, Nia Jax or Goldberg?
I'd have to say, oh God, that's a toughie. Undertaker got dropped on his head, so I mean, like, what am I supposed
Bobby
to
Lashley
say?
just avoided one, didn't he, at SummerSlam when
Yeah.
I think he was supposed to push him over, but yeah.
Well, there you go. This is why I say that Gage Goldberg's son, is the biggest heel in wrestling, because that's the reason Goldberg's back. But yes, Martin Correa says that, do you think Damien Priest will transition to the main event scene, and would you expect for that to happen? Well, he had a fantastic victory on Raw, didn't he? A triple threat match, defending his United States Championship, winning clean over Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, pinning Drew McIntyre. If that's not an endorsement of saying that we have got faith in Damien Priest to get to the next level, and let's not forget a Bad Bunny with him at WrestleMania, I don't know what is. James, do you see Damien Priest as a future main eventer in WWE?
I never thought I would, but I certainly do at the moment. I think they're building him nicely, certainly with Raw this week. I thought it was a really good match for three big guys as well. I mean, Priest is no shorty, so like all three of them. Yeah, it was, and it weren't just a slow slugfest either. It felt like there was a lot of high spots in it as well. Priest can move. That's the difference with him, I think. You've got Drew, jumping over the top rope. Sheamus, probably not known, but he still pulled out one of his moves off the rope, didn't he, on Drew? So yeah, I think it's I don't know. I think he's got potential too. I certainly think he's in the mix. Whether he would actually win it, I don't know. But I think him versus Bobby would. I don't know if they've fought already, not to my recollection, but yeah, it could be a good match.
Not that I know. They teased it the other week, but not yet.
And putting the US title on him is a good start. I think that's a good. And the open challenges, I was sure that Adam Cole was going to crop up on Raw, but I think equally what they done was really good.
Absolutely. Funny you mention Adam Cole. We're going to go to that in a second. But yeah, I'm going to say I think it will happen. And I'm going to say now, as an outside bet, Damien Priest to win the Royal Rumble. That's what I'm going to say right now. It's a long way away, I will probably change my mind 15 times between now and then, but Priest to win the Rumble. But you mentioned Adam Cole, BWF. Do you think that Adam Cole should go to AEW with Punk and potentially Brian and Bray going there? Would end up being lost in the mid card. Not everyone can main event. True, not everyone can main event, but you know what? I think Adam Cole would be amongst his friends. He'd be amongst with the Young Bucks, with Kenny Omega. His partner, Britt Baker's there. DMD, got to do that every time. It's literally, I think he would be fine. Yeah, I don't think you need to go and have a championship every time. Could you imagine Adam Cole against the likes of those people, against CM Punk, against Daniel Bryan, against Bray Wyatt? I mean, there would be some fantastic matches there, not to mention the elite that's there and other superstars on the card already. What do you feel with Adam Cole? Do you think he's better suited in WWE, or do you think that he should go to AEW?
I honestly think and this is going to be controversial, I think he's got a better chance of winning top gold in WWE than I think he has in AEW. And the reason I say that is because we talked about CM Punk joining earlier. Bryan Danielson's going to be joining. Bray Wyatt's linked. There's always someone who's being linked. The problem is that roster right now is stacked. If anything, it's bloated, right? And the problem you've got is you bring all these guys in. CM Punk's not good. I mean, I hope he's not just coming to give all the younger talent, like I said before, a rub in a match, whether he wins or loses. I want to see him going for belts. I want to see him going for the top belts. If Daniel Bryan comes in, same again. Slightly different with Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson. I think he's going there because of the relationship with New Japan, as well as AEW stars. I think he wants to wrestle, and my prediction, if you didn't ask, is that he'll be involved, I think, at All Out in the Dean Ambrose match or John Moxley match. So I think that's where he'll show up.
Interesting.
So, but going back to my point, you've got so much top talent in AEW that I feel is almost getting lost already a little bit with the names that they're bringing. You can't fit everyone onto these pay-per-views or the weekly shows, and if not, then it ends up on Dark. And let's be honest, who's watching Dark? Probably a lot of your viewers. But my point is, these guys are top guys, and they're going to get further pushed down, and I just worry for that you're then going to unsettle a lot of people. You can only have so many people in catering. And it's that other thing of you're bringing in the guys that want to be at the top, not guys that are workers in the middle or, happy to go for, think Miro. I mean, he's doing an awesome job. And he's probably at his level at the moment. I don't think he's quite ready to jump up even in AEW. But I don't feel like, and the other thing you don't want is just all WWE guys or ex-WWE guys battling for your main titles. So, it's a balancing act. You've got Bray there. There's, rumours about him as well. I'd love to see Adam Cole there because of the matches he could have, but I'd also love to see him stick. I mean, I'd love to see Bryan stick with WWE, but I get it, but it's just a risky game for AEW as well at the same time.
Absolutely fantastic points made there. It's hard to argue with some of them, but we'll have to wait and see where he does end up, because it certainly is a big talking point in the wrestling community right now. But one of my favourite named YouTube channels for this evening so far, have WWE just scrapped the Alexa Charlotte feud? It appears so, doesn't it? Alexa Bliss was confronting Charlotte last week, nowhere to be seen this week, and Nia beat Charlotte. So is this one scrapped for the meantime?
It appears that way. I don't know. I read something that it was pulled this week for her being on there, and then obviously she wasn't. I don't know what they're doing with Alexa at the moment, and it's a shame really, because I feel like she took on that role really well. She does that with any role that she takes, to be fair, in WWE, or she's had. I feel there's now a little bit more of a disconnect because Bray's not there. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't know. I mean, the match itself, to be honest, I don't even feel like Alexa's really an in-ring competitor anymore. She's more of an attraction. with the character that she portrays. So yeah, it's a bit of a funny one for me.
It is a bit of a funny one, but it seems that he's judged on this Lily doll selling over SummerSlam, which was why she was going to get this match to begin with. And the Lily doll sold really, really well. So, I mean, for us all saying that we don't like it, we don't want it around, people were buying it. So that's why originally it seemed like she was going to get the match. But at the moment, after this week on Raw, you'd argue and say, maybe it's not. But we'll have to wait and see. I think we'll have a better idea on Raw next week. But we'll go back to the comment section anyway, and we've got BWF says that they used the UK furlough scheme so that they wouldn't see releases. So it'll be interesting to see what they do now. It's a fantastic point, of course, with the furlough scheme. Let's hope there's not more wrestlers released. There's been far too many as it is, but of course, you wouldn't be surprised if it was to go down. But another one here from Byron. He says, are we going to see any more of the Forbidden Door? I think we've got loads more of the Forbidden Door left, Jay. I think we've got years to come of it, don't you?
Certainly. I think Tony Khan's doing a great thing, and obviously the respective companies that they've been working with are doing a great thing, because what we're seeing as fans now are the matches that we dreamed might happen one day. You know, you haven't got to worry about what company you're in necessarily. If an agreement can be made and that person's not really in an existing feud, then they can certainly set one up. And yeah, I mean, it's what we all wanted. I mean, it's, dare I say it in a football link, it's like the Super League. But at least with this, it can, you know, they can all carry on doing their individual thing and cross over when the time's right.
Absolutely, and that's the exact reason why the Super League didn't work, because they didn't want to cross over properly. But anyway, and more inspirational pay-per-views as well, which I'm pretty sure as well would get. I mean, obviously we spoke about Bound for Glory already. I mean, you can imagine there's going to be AEW stars on Wrestle Kingdom, providing the COVID stuff is, you know, we're able to travel still. You know, we seem to be seeing all over the place. We've had it in Power, of course, with NWA recently, where there's been stars from AEW, Impact, and independent talents as well. So I think we've got lots more of it on the way, don't you, Jay?
Definitely. But my question is, do you think WWE or Vince in particular would ever consider it after seeing the success from the other side?
I don't think he was seeing anyone on their level to do it with. And of course, every other company's doing it against them. There was discussion earlier with New Japan to try and keep Daniel Bryan, but that obviously hasn't materialized. So I don't see WWE doing it anytime soon. Of course, Tony Khan said the door's always open. He'd be well up for it. But, you know, Vince being Vince, Vince can't lose. You saw what he did to WCW. You've seen what he's done to ECW, and anything else previously, he buries it. So I just don't see how they can get that working relationship to work, especially with when I suppose you could argue AEW doesn't want to look weak either when working with these other promotions. So it's a very difficult one to see for me.
Do you think he will lose though eventually in this battle now with AEW, now that they're on the scene, and they're obviously Tony Khan and his dad have got a lot of money to throw behind it? Do you think this could be when WWE kind of meet their match to some extent?
I'd say financially, no. Even though the Khans have a lot of money, WWE's on a level where they can't be caught right now. They are the number one wrestling market. There's just they will get the offers from Fox and get the offers from Peacocks of money that they shouldn't be getting. But from a rating standpoint, AEW's catching up. They're not going to do it like next week or anything like that. But I think if they carry on and Raw continues to drop, although Raw's gone back up to, I think it was 1.9 million this week. Raw had gone to 1.5 at one point. Rampage for CM Punk's debut went around 1.1 to 1.3. So you can see the gap is bridging, but it's not quite there yet. And if it went head to head, I don't know what happens then, because you've got the loyalists that will stay with WWE. If anything, it's just going to split the number so that everyone will suffer. So it's hard to know on a rating standpoint, but financially, I mean, WWE is still the biggest one in town.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I think it's down to, like you said, they're going to have that financial clout. It's just how loyal some of the wrestlers are, I think, will be the big thing. You know, we're seeing big names now jump ship. I never thought I'd see Daniel Bryan ever leave WWE. I thought he'd be there through thick and thin after he joined. So it's interesting. And even the veterans who are like the legends, I mean, obviously Big Show and Mark Henry and people like that jumping over. It's not even about them, what they can do in the ring, although Show's obviously going to be fighting it all out. It's more of a brand appeal to the older fans, you know, and try and draw some of the fans of Show over to AEW and Mark Henry and other people like that. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens.
I have to agree. I think that, like you said, it's going to be interesting how it's going to play out. But time will tell. It's one of those things that it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I have to see how it's going to play out. But Martin Carrera say that. So it looks like WWE is keeping the NXT rebranding a secret. Do you guys think that Vince has his hands on all decks with this? I mean, we sort of touched on this a little bit earlier on. We're not entirely sure what the changes will be, but obviously it looks like it's going to be this thing where younger guys, bigger bodybuilding kind of looking guys are going to be involved here. I guess with the indie talent, they won't be sort of signed, I guess, or will be moved to Raw and SmackDown or released. Let's hope that doesn't happen, but it's certainly potential. But we mentioned with the logo, perhaps it could be a different sort of rebranding and a different packaging of the program altogether. Jay, I mean, do you think that Vince will be more hands-on with this going forward to make sure that when these superstars are called up from NXT to Raw and SmackDown, they haven't got to change everything about? Because we see so many superstars that don't get packaged the way that they are in NXT.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the biggest frustrations. I mean, fans aren't stupid. Do you know what I mean? We know who these people are that they're coming. And that's why it frustrates me so much sometimes when they do get called up, because you just feel like you're ruining something. I mean, we're seeing it at the moment with Karrion Kross. They've taken Scarlett away for some reason. I know there was talk about her being more involved in ring. But that seems, God knows what's going on there. But just the look and everything, I mean, it's been all over the reports, hasn't it, and social media of how dreadful it looks. But even the names, I mean, even going down to bringing someone up like Pippa Niven from UK, you know, to change her to Doudrop, which at the time I thought, oh, this will be a short-term thing. It's Eva Marie kind of taking the mick a little bit, and then all of a sudden, once she splits from her, but no, she likes the name, she's keeping it. And people, the problem is, over time, you forget what they were before, and then it's just, you know, you're then just remember, you just know them as Doudrop or whatever, Killer Cross. Oh, you forget that he was Killer Cross, and now he's just Karrion Kross. But yeah, I did read a report the other day that they haven't necessarily ruled out signing indie talents in NXT. Okay. But I think you're right. I think they're going to be few and far between. It'd be interesting to see what happens to people like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa and people like that moving forward. But Vince, is he going to be more involved? He's always involved somewhere, isn't he? So I'd hate to see it, because I really think Triple H has done an awesome job with NXT. Yes, they've tried to change it slightly and maybe it's not worked, although I was enjoying it before they started taking everyone and ruining them on the main roster. So, you know, it's interesting. I mean, it's so frustrating. I'm just thinking now, like Keith Lee and people like that, you know, it's how can you ruin these guys when they're literally at the top of that company, and you bring them over and you just can't make it work. All right, I think Keith Lee had a COVID related, was it, or a heart issue or something like that. But, you know, so certain circumstances can't be helped, but to then just change everything about them, and it just really takes the wind out of their sails. You know, Karrion Kross losing in his first match to Jeff Hardy, it just killed him straight away. Yeah. So, to be honest, Punk said the line once, didn't he? And I won't say it, but in a word, once Vince is gone, it'll be better for the company. But it's he'll probably always be there somewhere or another.
Yeah, absolutely indeed. Well, you mentioned Keith Lee a minute ago, and Martin does actually say, can Keith Lee translate to the main event picture with a heel turn? That's in the rumor mill this week, that perhaps he could be being repackaged. Do you think that Keith Lee needs that at this point to transition to get himself to the top level?
I reckon he could do it. Whether I actually like him as a face, I think he's really good, and that's again what we saw him as in NXT. So relating back to what I just said, because they've taken the wind out of his sails since he's been on the main event or the main roster, should I say? I think doing a turn now and keeping him off TV for a bit, or the main roster TV, will probably be the best way to bring him back as a heel. But yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting too.
It will be. I mean, they've done a great job with Otis on this heel turn of what they've done with
Yeah,
him with the Alpha Academy. So, I mean, if they can book it correctly and consistently, consistency is the key. If you can do it as a face or a heel consistently, there's a chance of him getting over. But usually, if they can't make it work by baby face, turn them heel, turn them face later. That's been done with so many of the
yeah,
top stars over the years. So, I
yeah.
think that's the
And
best way to go forward.
I was just going to say, you were spot on there about Otis. Like, how good is he at the moment in his role?
Mm.
Just his character work is amazing. Because I, as much as I liked him in Heavy Machinery and the whole story they'd done with Mandy Rose, I could never believe that he was going to reach that when he got Money in the Bank. You know, I could never
Yeah.
believe that he was going to cash that in. He's not that sort. Now, if you stuck that on him now, I mean, he's another good shout for Royal Rumble. You know.
Yeah, do you know what? As an outside bet, again, we're talking about building new stars up. It would be fun to see if they could actually do that because they obviously saw something before to give him Money in the Bank. So now actually to, put the faith back in Otis if you want, that would be pretty cool to see, wouldn't it? So, yeah,
100%.
I think it's a good shout. Also, just one more shout on NXT UK. They also now just sponsored Enfield Football Club, so assuming they're staying. So there you go. That's definitely good for Enfield Football Club, and it's good for NXT UK as well. And Supersonic X is in the house, and what are your thoughts on the weird match between Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax? Do you think it's a work shoot or an actual shoot? We've touched on this a bit earlier on, but we can answer that simple question now. I believe it's meant to be a work shoot, but when I was watching it, damn, I believed it seemed like an actual one.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like there was once Nia got one stiff shot in, then Charlotte started giving her own, and then it just became a mess, didn't it?
Absolutely. The only thing I would say that perhaps maybe you can see it's work shoot to not. Do you remember when Nia clocked Becky Lynch back in the day and completely ruined that Survivor Series match? I think you've been for real. I think you'd have realised that match wouldn't have continued a lot longer very quickly. But that's what makes me feel it could be a work shoot. But it wasn't pretty one way or another. So I have to agree with that. West Coast Podcast. Piper Niven was given the Dominion name of Dewdrop because of the shape of one. Storyline-wise and kayfabe, her wanting that name, it doesn't make sense. False. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know why she's not gone back to being Piper Niven, especially now she's left Eva Marie as well. For me, I'm not a fan of the whole gimmick. I think Piper Niven is a fantastic talent, deserves better. I look forward to when she can get away from Eva Marie and start working with people on the roster, perhaps that can help elevate her, and hopefully with the name change as well. I mean, someone like Shayna Baszler, for example, who's not winning matches at the moment. Classic one being rolled up every single week, but certainly could give the rub over to Piper Niven if and when she could change that name back. Jay, what's your thoughts on this question? And it's good to see Zach's in house as well.
Yeah, hey Zach. Yeah, well, we mentioned it earlier. I don't like the name. Again, it's that kind of. She went to say it, didn't she? I'm sure when Eva Marie gave her and said, "Oh, this is Dewdrop," I'm sure she went to say her name, and then she cut her off. So there is kind of a hint towards what her actual name is. The very first time she came on the show, but I don't know. She said she likes the name, so that's what's weird, and I can't see her giving it up. But I'm intrigued to see where they go with this because realistically, like Eva Marie can't beat her. But I was surprised. What were your thoughts on the match on Raw with her getting kind of a hit in before the bell and almost heelish sort of behaviour?
It didn't make any sense. It's the sort of thing that gets no one over because it's like it's supposed to be a babyface, but attacking the heel before the bell, like you say, it's not the right sort of tactics. And yeah, I mean, Piper Niven, I'm going to say Piper Niven because that's her name, God damn it, would squash Eva Marie within 2 minutes without any foul. And why she wouldn't want the bell to ring to do that just doesn't add up or make any sense at all. So for me, I wasn't a fan of that match on Raw. I just didn't think it'd do anything for anyone.
I agree.
Well, I'll tell you what, West Coast Podcast also has mentioned, because we were talking about NXT, Brian Elvis has just reported that NXT will be produced by Vince and Bruce Pritchard going forward. So that answers our question there. What are your initial thoughts on that there? Because like you said, you preferred it with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, what they were doing until the transition. So what do you feel about this now going forward? Have we got another Monday Night Raw on our hands?
Well, what I'd like is that Vince then says to Trips and HBK to go and sort out Raw. If they could go up and take that on. I mean, could it be a passing of the torch? I doubt it, but that'd be the dream scenario. Because again, I don't think he's done a bad job with NXT, and I think when you've got a wrestler and a very good one that he was, and probably still can go a little bit Triple H, but and HBK 100%. When you've got people who have been in the industry and wrestled, and this is no discredit to Vince's work prior, but they know the modern day of wrestling. I don't think Vince is still living way in the past at times, and he likes a fart joke. So I think Triple H and HBK would, if given the opportunity, would thrive on the main roster. Honestly, would.
Yeah, I think that they definitely would do pretty well if that was. I mean, it's a dream case scenario. Will we get our wish? Probably not.
No.
But do you know what? I dare to dream. That's what I do, James. I dare to dream that could happen one day. It'd be amazing. Matt Stan 13. How long is CM Punk's contract? AEW could struggle to keep everybody happy. I actually don't know how long that contract is, but I'm sure it's multi-yeared. But do you know?
They were asked. Well, they were asked it in the press conference after Rampage, and neither of them would commit to. But Tony Khan did say it's long. They said, what does it matter? They said you don't need to know how long it is, but Tony Khan said, don't worry, he'll be here for the foreseeable.
I like it. A long 3 months. No, I'm sure. I mean, instead of the summer of Punk, at least the year of Punk would be pretty awesome to see. That would be pretty fun. But I mean, if we can get him for longer, I mean, I'm all for it because CM Punk. I still think there's a few years left in the tank.
Well, why wouldn't he want to stay? I think he can still go. I mean, he's young in wrestling terms, really. When you see WWE bringing Goldberg back, what does that say? And he's a big guy. He's got a lot more work to do. But with Punk's never been a wrestler in any sort of amazing shape as such. So I honestly think this could light a fire in him that means he wants to stay, like you said, multiple years.
Let's hope so. We'd like to see it. And we wonder if we've talked about whether AEW can struggle to keep everyone happy, but hopefully they'll find a way in doing so because that roster does look pretty good. So I'd like them to find a way to do so. They've got another show on Rampage now, so hopefully that fills out the TV time a little bit more. Probably not the most positive comment we're going to see tonight. C Nation Dog, thanks for checking out the stream. Raw was good because Alexa Bliss wasn't on it. Ouch. I mean, I'm a fan of Alexa Bliss. I won't hide on that one, but I'm not a big fan of the current gimmick. I've been no secret of saying that previously. But I mean, Jay, what's your thoughts of Alexa Bliss? I mean, we can take her as the competitor and obviously the current gimmick as well.
Yeah, she's one of them ones where I think she works best. I mean, if we take the gimmick away at the moment, I think she does work best as a heel. I've always thought that. I didn't particularly like her and Nikki Cross when they were kind of like a chummy tag team. Didn't really rate that. So heel definitely works for me from a wrestling point of view because it's almost a little bit like AJ Lee, someone like that. I think it's that kind of, they've got to be a bit sneaky and conniving in their matches, which is why that suited. I am intrigued by the storyline that she's doing, but more from a point of where's it going, less so than, I must see this. Do you know what I mean? It's like I said earlier, I think since Bray's gone, I liked the connection between the two, and now Bray's gone, it just doesn't, I don't know, it feels a little bit lost now.
Yeah, there has been definitely a disconnect since Bray's left, and I mean, obviously, the transition with the Lily doll was what I think has really harmed Alexa Bliss. I mean, she says she's liking it, she's enjoying it. That's great for her, but it's not really connecting with a portion of the audience. And unfortunately, if you want these characters to get over, I mean, you can see here there are people that are not a fan of it, and of course, not everyone's going to be a fan of everyone. We realize that, but you want to connect with the majority of your audience, and I don't hear enough positive about this current Alexa Bliss character, more due to the fact of having the Lily doll than her herself. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see how it's going to transition. Would you see a potential storyline where Alexa Bliss can transition out of that character back to the goddess at some point? Should they want to change and mix it up?
Well, I mean, they have done that, haven't they? Where she was going kind of a bit back and forth. It reminds me very much of Sue Young in Impact in that respect. If you're going to have where they're transitioning back and forth, I think it probably would have worked better if Bray was still there for her to come out of it, because you feel like with his character he could have stopped it all. How they do it this way. Who knows? It could be something to do with the doll, but it's only got so long in it for me. The storyline, I feel like it's getting to that point now where it's nearly run its course.
I would have to agree. I think perhaps it's getting to that point and it's nearly run its course. But Matt Stan 13, if AEW hold a big pay-per-view off US Shore, it will begin to compete with WWE. And they have actually, Tony kind of said he was desperate to bring AEW to the United Kingdom. That's one of his dream goals. Craven Cottage, of course, is the home of Fulham Football Club, who also are owned by the Khans. Of course, they also own the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. So you can see the connection with all three brands. I think it makes sense. One thing I will say to you, Jay, this is a slight football question, actually, more than actually an AEW question, but it kind of works hand in hand. Do you think, you see the shirt sponsors on football clubs? Of course, you see it with multiple different sports for those that don't follow football, soccer, whatever you want. The arm sleeves has become quite a new popular one in football, soccer. Would you say Fulham should do that? It'd be great. Everyone's watching the Premier League would see AEW's logo each and every week, every game.
Be amazing. Would be amazing. And like, I can't remember who it was said earlier about Enfield. They've got NXT. I don't know if it's their main one or one on the side, but they've got NXT UK as one of their things, I believe. I was reading that the other day because Triple H done a post. He'd done a little video on Twitter for it. So, Fulham, it's an obvious one. If they can do it, yeah, definitely.
Definitely. If the pandemic lightens down and we can get more travel going on, who knows? We may just see it. Supersonic X, what are your thoughts on Asuka's arm injury and when will she come back to the ring, to in-ring action? Apologies about that. Of course, the rumours were going around suggesting that she had no plans for a Monday Night Raw. We've learned that her teeth are fixed. Of course, after speaking of football, Nia Jax actually, or should I say, Shayna Baszler thought that she was Cristiano Ronaldo doing a penalty kick earlier in the year. That's how she lost some of her teeth. But they're back now. She's got an arm injury. We don't know how long she's out for. But when she returns, hopefully she returns, either on SmackDown or some sort of change, or maybe she just will be refreshed and go straight out to the main event picture. How do you see Asuka coming back into WWE when she does?
She'd have to go in at the top, surely, like back into the top tier of one of the brands. It'd be interesting to see which brand she goes back to, actually, as well, because obviously she's been out for a while now. So if the arm injury is going to take her out for longer. I don't know what the injury is. I saw the news about it with her teeth, and she had her arm obviously in a protective cast. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where she fits in. Her and Becky, maybe potentially. I mean, I know it's been done before, but they have quality matches. This is the problem now, though. I think for WWE having one of the strongest female rosters, you do start to see the same matches cropping up again. And unfortunately, when you are the top talent, you are likely to see that. But yeah, be interesting to see. I don't know if you also, while we're talking about women's wrestling, did you see about Tessa Blanchard?
I did, yeah. Of course, teasing with the $1 million. Tessa Blanchard in NXT now. Tessa Blanchard comes with baggage. I'm well aware of that, but arguably is one of, if not, well, she's up there and definitely the top 5-10 women's wrestlers in the world. I would love to see her back on my TV screen. I thoroughly enjoyed her working in Impact Wrestling. What are your thoughts? Would you like to see her back?
Yeah, I'd love to see her in WWE. I think that's where as much as probably AEW is the more appealing from the company's trajectory and things like that, the talent for women's wrestling is on WWE. So if you want to have the best matches and get them done while you're still young, and then you can jump ship if she wanted to later down the line, I think it'd be awesome if they got her in.
Absolutely, indeed. There, we've got Byron back again. This is what do you think of the upcoming WWE draft? Any effects from it? That's a great loaded question there, James. I'm gonna sort of fuel you into an answer if you don't mind of certain potential possibilities. We could make to the point where Raw is good again. We make sure those characters get over to Monday night to carry a 3-hour show. Maybe SmackDown continues to get strength and new opponents for Roman Reigns, maybe like a Drew McIntyre, or an Asuka goes over for Becky Lynch, like you suggested before. Do we get Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair on the same show to go towards a WrestleMania match? Do we see multiple NXT call-ups, more than we've seen ever, and it freshens the roster up to the point like it was back in 2016? Lots of different ideas. What do you think we're going to get from the draft this year? Surely we need a more balanced roster than what we've got right now, because Raw has great talent on it, no doubt about it, but people seem to find that a very difficult show to watch.
It is. And one thing I noticed this week, it just seemed like you had loads of tag teams that were split to
Mm.
fight singles matches this week. I know there was a couple of tags, I think, but it's just like I was watching, I was thinking, I'm sure there was one where it was Omos versus someone in one match. He was fighting John Morrison, wasn't he?
It
And
was
then
indeed.
the next match was AJ versus Xavier Woods. So just thinking, like, if you've got tag teams, keep them together. Like, there's no point making these tag teams if you're just going to split them. And there was 2 or 3 in the night, I think. So for me, I think we'll probably likely see a lot of NXT guys, relating back to what we was earlier talking about. If they want to create NXT as this developmental area again, where you've got all this young big guys in there, I think they'll need to move some of them either on or up to the main roster. So I think they'll utilize a lot of that to just widen the net a little bit, the pool of superstars, certainly on Raw, like you said, and then do a few switches between 2. Drew McIntyre, I think he wants to fight Roman again. I think there's a lot of talk about that in the press recently. Yeah, I mean, everyone loves the draft. It's just, even if you're seeing people go back to the brand that they were on last time, it's, Seth, what will they do with him now? Has he done enough? Edge could move back over. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
It will be very interesting. It's always a fun time, the draft. I love draft season, especially you. Probably people that follow this channel for a lengthy time will know I'm all about the draft each and every year. I do like a ton of videos when the draft season is around. And obviously, I've got 3 videos already out this year of who I think shouldn't be moving in the draft. NXT potential call-ups. Some of those are outdated now. Bronson Reed has been released. But still, I mean, it's that scenario of what we've seen. And hopefully, as we get closer to the draft, more videos will come onto the channel. So lots of things to look forward to, hopefully, on this channel going forward. But C Nation Dog has said, I like Alexa Bliss, just not a gimmick right now. And you know what? We agree with you, C Nation Dog. Don't take any worry about that whatsoever. We're in full agreement with you. But Byron Briscoe says, and this is to do with the Forbidden Door, I'm guessing, will AAA and CMLL be involved, of course, from Mexico? I'm guessing so, but I reckon AAA will be more like with Impact Wrestling and AEW. CMLL has had a... So I'm guessing that would probably be the continued working relationships, I'm guessing, going forward. But Jake, have you got anything to add with the Mexican promotions and the Forbidden Door?
No, I think you're spot on with what you said. I can see them both being involved with the separate companies, but yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Nation Dog has made says a lot of people may stop watching NXT because it'd be the same like the main roster. And what's the point of watching the same thing? Repeat. Is it another episode of Monday Night Raw going on Tuesdays, Jay?
I don't think it'll get that bad, personally. I think you'll still have... I mean, they've just announced 5 or 6 new signings yesterday to the Performance Centre. Some interesting names as well. I think the Usos' younger brother was one of them. Hopefully you'll see a lot of these come through on there and develop their characters there. I just don't want to see that development happen and then change it all when they get brought up. If you're going to use the system the right way. Make them work for what you want them to be when they move up. And whatever success they have in NXT, fantastic.
Absolutely. I agree with that. 100% spot on. I can't add anything more to that. Best in the World 1989. Evening all. Evening to you. Thank you for checking out the stream. Hope you are doing very, very well. And we've got Alicia Stansbury in the house. Hello, Alicia. Good to have you on board with us as well. Enough is enough, I'm guessing. Is Nia Jax somebody that will get kill unsafe? Can't stand her. We can't see her. Something needs to be done. Can't stand sloppy wrestler, worst wrestler all time, Seth and Roman to retrain her. Well, I mean, will the retraining happening? I mean, training, you can only go so heavily in the video already. She's been on Raw. She's never been on SmackDown. She's been on Raw since 2016. She's been in NXT for like a year or so before. Training-wise, I don't know how long she was in the Performance Center, but she's been doing this for a while now. How much more training can Nia Jax do at this point? Because it kind of feels to me that we're not getting anywhere further.
Well, you say that, Steve, but you look at Keith Lee. He was sent back to training, and I don't know whether that was just promos or whether it was in-ring stuff, but, at some point, and Keith Lee's a veteran really in the indies, so yes, in WWE it's bigger, it's brighter, it's bolder. So I wouldn't necessarily say she can't have more training and take her out of the limelight a bit, because other than if she's had an injury, she's not been taken out of the limelight. She's still always there, be it in a tag team or as a singles competitor. So it's a difficult one. And some people, it's very difficult to train out of bad habits, I guess.
Yeah.
And if that's the case with her, then someone needs to do something about it. And I'm sure behind the scenes, they're definitely speaking about it.
I'm sure so as well. I mean, that has to be a big talking point after Raw this week because social media went crazy. You know, it's something. I mean, yeah, the wrestling fans talk about it. But when Mick Foley goes, WTF is going on with that match? You know, something's not quite there. So, yeah, it's very interesting. First question from Best in the World from this evening. What match are you looking forward to at All Out? For him, it's Pac versus Andrade. James, what's the match of the night you're looking forward to?
What can you guess?
I mean, what time is it?
It's clobbering time, Steve. It's CM Punk's match, definitely. Pac versus Andrade should be on paper an awesome match, but I don't think Andrade's getting over that well there.
It's definitely a slow transition, but I think this is definitely a big performance for Andrade. And this is one of the reasons why, outside of the CM Punk match, I actually agree with Best in the World that this is one of the matches I'm looking forward to, because if you look back to like takeovers with Andrade when he took on like Johnny Gargano and like Drew McIntyre back in the day, I almost said Galloway for a second. You sit there and say like, there were some big performances from Andrade. This feels like it's almost, I don't want to say it's as extreme as sink or swim, but I feel for Andrade, a killer performance against he's got the perfect opponent to face here. These two could steal the show, and at this point, everyone will not be talking about what's happened previously of Andrade. We're talking about that match, and he can build on that going forward. It could almost be like the second coming for Andrade at this point. It's almost like how Miro was when he started. He was the best man. We've already said this. You were the best man. And now he's gone back to being God's favorite champion at this point with that gimmick, and that gimmick's getting over so much better. Now he's away from Kip Sabian. Andrade, they're finding their way with him, and I'm hoping this will be the placement where they can really make him a star in AEW.
Yeah, well, I hope so as well, because the talent has always been there. And, I mean, to go up against Pac, that's going to be an awesome match. Another one that I was just thinking about, which I hope will be a really good match, is obviously the Young Bucks versus Penta and Ray Phoenix.
Should be awesome.
Yeah,
should be awesome.
A really good match.
They're going to find a way. Usually a cage would limit people to doing the sort of stuff they do. They're going to find a way to kill themselves in that cage. You know how they're going to do it. They're going to tear it to pieces. It's going to be really, really exciting. Jay, very quickly, obviously it is 10 p.m. UK time. We've just hit an hour over the stream. Are you fine to do another 15, 20 minutes more to get a few more questions in for people? Yeah, just to check that with people. So people still throw any questions in. We'll go for about another 20 minutes, maybe 25 if we're lucky, and we'll get as many questions as we can done in that time period. C-Nation Dog, it doesn't like Ridge Holland that much. He looks like Pat McAfee. Glad Tommaso Ciampa won. He ain't doing much right now. I'll tell you what, I'm going to make a little prediction, Jay. Tell me what you're thinking with this with NXT. Now, Toothless Timmy was taken out by Pete Dunne, Ridge Holland, and we've got this new faction now. It's fully strength come, but it's a new faction. But Pat McAfee was in it last year. Ridge Holland is in it this year. These four together, I think we're building towards War Games. I really do. We've got Toothless Timmy 100%. And Ciampa in there, two of them. We need another two. Do you reckon MSK could be the other two that could fit that mold?
Well, they planted the seed, haven't they? Because they came out. Have you seen NXT?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so they obviously came out, didn't they, to support Ciampa. So it screams to me. I don't know where that fits in the calendar now. Is that coming up?
November.
Okay, so not far away. So yeah, he's planting the seeds already. Yeah? That'd be an awesome match, by the way. MSK, I think, would be awesome in that match, and that tends to be the match that makes a lot of superstars. Certainly from NXT. So yeah, definitely, I think that could work.
It could be indeed. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah.
Would you? Sorry, just to add to that, Steve. Would you be annoyed that it's kind of the same faction swapping out Pat McAfee for Ridge Holland?
Not necessarily. The reason why, Undisputed Era have been in every single one, and they won't be this year because obviously two of them are not with the company now. So it's going to be interesting. If anything, it's going to feel a bit weird that the Undisputed Era are not in there.
That's a good point.
I have to see what we're going to say.
And sorry, just to add what he said, I quite like Ridge Holland. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think, there needs to be some work, but he's still a bit rough around the edges. But I think there's definitely. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say he's the next Brock Lesnar. I think we all know the next Brock Lesnar is, but and he was actually on, wasn't he? I'm sure I saw something the other day that he was one of the security guards in the Adam Cole. Was it not Adam Cole? It was Lashley and Goldberg, wasn't it? Maybe, or I don't know. It was in one of them.
It was Cross and Joe, I believe. The other week
That's
was
it. Yeah, sorry, apologies. Yeah,
security guard.
And he was there, wasn't
he? Yeah. So I'm the same as you. I think that Rich Holland, there's bags of potential. Ring, I think it's all right. Like there's still a way to go. He's the perfect prodigy of what this NXT represents. So obviously that could be a tell whether people are going to still like NXT going forward. But I mean, it's still a young sort of guy, Rich Holland. To see what happens over the next 3 to 6 months, give this stable a chance, see where we go from there. But it's certainly interesting take on it. And obviously we feel slightly different about it. But I mean, of course, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with this talent going forward. But CH Doug also says, did you hear 3 advertised matches on Raw this week? And they didn't happen. No. And the reason it didn't happen is Vince ripped up the script. He ripped it up and he wasn't happy. Even at 6 p.m. Eastern, Raw script was not ready for the performers. It's the first time it's not happened in a while. So apparently Vince, according to this, I saw this on Wrestle Talk earlier on today. So this is where my sources on this, if people wondered it. Literally, Vince apparently was very angry backstage, and it was one of the hardest days to be around him working in the company, full stop. So that's why a lot of the matches didn't happen on Raw. But did you find, Jay, that it's a bit annoying when you get told this is going to happen on a show and you tune it in and then it's not there?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, the Miz and Morrison, there was a lot to follow up on that. And they were supposed to fight, weren't they? And it probably explains, relating back to my earlier point, of why there were so many random kind of matches that were tag teams that were in singles fights and stuff like that. So I think it's always a shame, but then if they can deliver something better than what was advertised, then great. But I think this week's one was pretty poor, in my opinion. I know some people felt it was quite a good week. There was a couple of good matches for me, but I just felt the booking was a little random. I know it wasn't repeat matches, and maybe that's what happened. Maybe there was a lot of repeats. I don't know. Do you know what the all 3 of the matches were that were scrapped?
The 3 matches. Well, we were supposed to get Doudrop versus Eve Marie, and that didn't happen because the bell didn't ring. John Morrison versus The Miz was supposed to happen, which Miz wasn't even backstage this week on Raw. And we were supposed to get Bobby Lashley against Sheamus. And of course, at the start of the show, those matches completely changed around. But arguably, I would say that those matches probably worked out for the better because they were the better matches on the show. But maybe we'll switch things around. We'll get Lashley versus Sheamus later down the road, hopefully.
But the other thing to take into account, I think, with all of this, and this goes across the board on all the shows, is COVID. People are still testing positive, whether they're really ill from it or not. And I think it's a bit like Sasha Banks. Like, no one actually knows, do they? I'm pretty sure no one actually knows why she's not there. That could be COVID related, but they just don't want to release that information. And I think you might see situations where all of a sudden Jeff Hardy got it, didn't he? So then the Karrion Kross thing had to be delayed, and think we're gonna have to deal with that. It's great having the fans back because it adds such a difference to the shows, but we're still going to have to deal with some consequences of COVID.
I think so, yeah. It's a fantastic point you make there. We have to take that in consideration. I suppose, as they always say, card is subject to change. So we always have to keep an eye out for that. But EBB in the house, thank you, Ibby, for checking out the stream. Landed on your predictions video and really enjoyed it. Great work, mate, and looking forward to All Out. Well, thank you so much for checking out the predictions video, and thank you for coming into the stream here. Hope you're having yourself a great day. And if you've got any questions, feel free to throw them in, and we'll happily give you a shout out and answer them whilst we're here on here. And I'm going to skip a couple more, go back to where we are in the light very short. But as we talk about Rich Holland, C-Nation Dog says that he may not like Rich Holland, pardon me, but that's good. He's a heel, and to be NXT champion, perhaps Pete Dunne North American champion, and Danny Burch and Only Lorcan NXT tag team champions. Now, that could be something as a potential in the future. I know Pete Dunne has been after Samoa Joe. We'll have to see how that will land out. But Rich Holland does feel like that kind of guy that could be championship material later down the line. Certainly would fit the mold, as we said. But yeah, Rich Holland may not like him, but obviously, like C-Nation Dog says, he's a heel. Clearly, he's doing his job right.
Yeah, 100%. I could, out of all of that, I could definitely see him as the NXT champion. I wouldn't want to see the whole faction as champs at the same time. We've seen it before with Undisputed Era when they had them all. I wouldn't want to see a repeat situation of that. I think they could all. Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, they had the tag titles, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
It was Danny Burch was injured. That's why they had to vacate
That's
them.
it. Yeah. And has Pete Dunne had the North American title, or have I made that up?
That's a good question. Someone let me know in the comments. I can't fully remember. I don't believe he has. I don't
I
believe
know he's
so.
been in the mix before,
Yes.
but maybe not won it. But I mean, maybe that one. But I feel like Pete Dunne. Yeah, I feel like he's at the moment he's nearer to the main title, just in his where he's at in his career, I'd say, than Rich Holland. Rich Holland still he's just got to go through like dominating people, which doesn't really help when he lost to Tommaso this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe swap them two round, Pete Dunne and Rich Holland. Maybe that's the way they might go now. Maybe in a year's time, Rich Holland would be perfect for that role. We'll have to wait and see. But apparently, Sinister says he's been NXT UK and NXT Tag Team Champion. Of course, with the Bruiserweights, that's where they were indeed. And Best of the Word says, Rich Holland reminds him of William Regal. Would you guys agree? I mean, for me, William Regal was more submission-based. I remember when watching him, that sort of technical style. Rich Holland's kind of someone that throws people around a bit more, but he does do the rest holds as well. So I can see why you would see the comparison. Of course, they've got the UK thing going on as well there. But what are your feelings, Joe?
I just feel like he's physically he's a bit of a beast. Where I would have never thought that. Probably same as you. I thought more submission-based for Regal, but Rich Holland. I feel like. Yeah, I don't want to do that comparison with Lesnar again, but there are similarities. I don't think he is the kind of the next Lesnar, but there's certainly similarities.
Absolutely, absolutely indeed. Then we mentioned also earlier on the stream about the idea of NXT UK being with Enfield FC. We mentioned the idea of AEW. They should go on those at Fulham Football Club shirts as a sponsor. And plus, we can have NXT sponsored by Sesame Street. Thank you very much, Best in the World. We're loving your work this Wednesday, honestly. We are absolutely loving it. Alyssa Stansbury, Ric Flair didn't agree. Book Becky versus Belair. Didn't like it. Kind of agree. The man gimmick needs something new. Okay, so we would like to see. Would you like to see Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch at the next pay-per-view Extreme Rules? And what are your thoughts with the man gimmick? Do you think it needs refreshing into this heel turn as we've been heavily rumored?
So relating to what she said, I saw that Ric Flair didn't agree with the booking of that match. And who did? Who did? And my only concern is that maybe Sasha, with her whatever this injury is or illness or whatever, maybe that was a bit of a surprise that she wasn't about, and they had to rush through Becky coming back, and maybe Becky wasn't ready for a 20-minute epic match. Maybe, or it was purely to get that heel heat. It does. It does. I think it's really does hurt Bianca Belair, who's been awesome, by the way, since she won the title, and even before that, I thought her build to winning the title was awesome. Yes, I'd like to see the match again and go because them two, I reckon they could absolutely tear it down. Do I think the gimmick needs something new? Yes and no. I don't think straight away because she's only just come back. I feel like in time maybe you couldn't just bring her back and she's completely different, if you know what I mean. Because we know what she is the man, so that's kind of her thing at the moment. But I think over time they might freshen it up.
I reckon so. I mean, you've got the transition. I think it's a slow burn heel turn on the way. And like you say, no one really agreed with their booking at SummerSlam. To break it down, I did a 20-minute review of SummerSlam this year. 7 minutes was spent on Becky versus Belair. That tells you how much I had to say about what happened with that on that review, which is available on the channel now. But to save everybody a bit of time, I'm going to do an abbreviation of it very, very quickly. So what I think should have happened was when Bianca Belair accepted the match, she should have been either beaten down before accepting the match. That way she could be the stupid babyface, or Becky should have hit her before the bell and then answered like a stupid babyface, and then it would have protected Belair a little bit more. Instead, she got beaten in 2 moves of doom, which arguably, a sucker punch to the face and the rock bottom just didn't seem enough to beat someone that you've been building for the last year. But in the long term, if Bianca Belair can get her win back over Becky Lynch and win that championship back, in the long run, she then would have beaten Becky Lynch, and that may make her a bigger star over time. But you can't argue that what they did at SummerSlam really did hurt at the time, and it has hurt Bianca Belair quite a bit. They're going to need to do some rebuilding with that going forward. And the Supersonic X has said that I think the man gimmick made Becky Lynch soft since her feud with Oscar last year. So that's an interesting one as well. I mean, maybe she did go a bit soft, Jay, and that's why she's had to come back with a bit more of a heelish side.
Potentially, yeah, definitely. It's very difficult because when a gimmick gets over so well, it's Vince and the creative team. Like, there's a lot of merch that goes into it as well, isn't there? So they'll look at, I'm sure Becky's still selling a lot of merch, so she'll want to keep that going as long until it dies out more than anything. 316 still goes on, and Stone Cold ain't even wrestling anymore. So when a gimmick gets over, like it did with her, that's what she's associated with. So, to step away can be a risky move at the same time.
Yeah, it's true. It's very risky indeed. We have to see how it's going to play out, and hopefully time will give us those answers when we're back here doing more of these Q&As. We'll actually be able to see what's going on and give a bit more of a detailed thought on it. But ABB says, do you think our British scene here will be revitalized next year? The independent scene, I'm not sure how they'll get back on their feet. Of course, with the pandemic and with COVID and everything else, it's been very difficult. James, I mean, obviously you have the ability to see independent shows, perhaps that are local in the area. We've mentioned how NXT and the scene has been big pre-pandemic. Do you think they'll get back to those heights once again?
I mean, I've lost touch a little bit with it, Steve, to be completely honest. I think it can because of the talent that's there. Certainly from when I was watching, which was only a couple of years ago when I was, pre-pandemic and stuff like that. I don't know, it's funny when I went to see, I think Kurt Angle was wrestling, and Cody Rhodes I saw wrestle in the UK scene. So these guys now are slowly starting to filter back out into the main shows. That's the problem, because the talent is that good, and they've had a bit of a rub from some of these absolute legends that have come over to have one-off matches. Obviously, Drew was doing some as well at one point. It's difficult. I think the talent's still there. It's just a matter of it kind of picking up in local spots. I mean, we've got one here in Norfolk, which Paige's family run. WAW, is it? WAW? I can't remember what it's called. I've never actually been to see any of their events, but like they're pretty big over like in this region. So, but there's so many. I mean, George Jones, he used to go, didn't he, to see some? Was it in Torquay? Was it or something like that?
Yeah.
Wrestling. Yeah, so they're all about, but they've all probably taken a huge hit over the past 18 months.
I would agree. I think the finance is what's going to be the thing with this. But of course, the fan base is there. The talent is still there. If they can get the shows back together and people can get there to go and see them, I think that they'll find their way to get back on their feet. I think the passion for UK wrestling is still there. Even though we've still got the likes of NXT UK, for example. I mean, of course, you mentioned the likes of Rev Pro as well. There were some really top, UK independent scenes that are out there that are great, almost feeder for what they get to later when they go to the States or go to Japan, or, we get the likes of Will Ospreays and of this world. So I think it will be all right. But it may take a bit of time to get back to where it was a few years ago. But I do think, though, that it will get there eventually. So it's one of those that hopefully we don't have to worry too much in time. Best in the World, 1989. Would you have booked Malachi Black versus Dustin Rhodes at All Out to continue the Cody storyline? I want to get your honest thoughts on this. Well, of course, yeah. I mean, Malachi Black actually wrote Cody Rhodes out a storyline to go and film the big show, or the big, whatever it's called, the big show that he does on TNT. And of course, Malachi Black against Dusty Rhodes would make a lot of sense in the meantime. Would be a great filler match on the pay-per-view. Be a great way to get Malachi Black on the pay-per-view. There's still time actually to make this happen as well. We've got Dynamite, we've got Rampage. James, what are your thoughts on this? Would you like to have seen this added to the pay-per-view?
Well, yeah, I'd love to see him on it. I think he's already absolutely smashing it. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, Steve, about how bloated that talent is in AEW. You've got someone like Malachi Black, who arguably with the debut and everything, like that pop, I remember when he debuted, it was like, oh my God. And already that's been dwarfed by CM Punk, and he's kind of on the side now. Like, although he's involved in a storyline, it's not what everyone's talking about. Where when he came onto the scene and attacked Cody, everyone was raving about it, and that's again going back to what I was saying. It's very difficult to keep all these parts moving and in the attention of the viewer that's watching. He fought on Anderson's son, didn't he?
He did,
Was
yes.
it Brock Anderson? Was
it was Brock Anderson last week.
That's
yeah.
it. And then hit Arn afterwards. So it makes sense for Dustin to do something like that. I don't know how many more matches Dustin's got left in him, to be honest. I'm pretty sure I read a report not too long ago that he was trying to wind down a little bit now more than anything. Where is there any other options within the Rhodes family dynasty or whatever it's called for him to go up against?
Well, the one I would spring to mind would be Lee Johnson, purely because he came to make the save after the match last week. Would be the alternative. And the one thing I will say, I've been praising AEW so much of late, so I'm going to give them a nitpick because I do think they made a booking mistake here last week. Malachi Black walked away from Lee Johnson. Why was he? Why did he go away? Lee Johnson is on Dark and Dark Elevation. This guy doesn't win that many matches when he gets to Dynamite. There was no need for Malachi Black, if he's going to be a top guy, to cower away from Lee Johnson. He could have just kicked his head off. Maybe they're going to save that for the pay-per-view or the buy-in. But certainly, whether it was Lee Johnson, whether it's Dustin Rhodes, in some format, we're going to say best in the world, we would be pleased to see it because it would get Malachi Black on that card this Sunday. And of course, on that sort of show as well would be fantastic to, Chicago. It's going to be so passionate. It's going to get all those sort of stars over on that show. They're going to feel big time that people get to perform on that pay-per-view. Another one just from Best of the World as well. Possible news on the heel turn for Keith Lee. I would honestly bring him over to SmackDown and bring him into the Bloodline and become IC champion. IC champion, yes. I'm not sure if I'd go with the Bloodline myself personally, but I think SmackDown would be a great place for Keith Lee. Whether it's a face or a heel, I think Keith Lee would have much more success on the blue brand. How would you feel about Keith Lee?
Yeah, I think the problem that you have is with you, if you're going to stick him in around the top, that's where I think he belongs. You've obviously got the two champs who are heels. IC champion, who is at the moment, it escapes my mind.
Sorry, say that again.
Who's the IC champ at the moment? It's escaping my mind.
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Oh, Shinsuke, yeah. So I mean, they could absolutely tear it down. That'd be an awesome match if he did come in as a heel. So I agree. Yes, it would work on that front. The problem you've got on Raw is if you stick him on that mid-title US. We've seen him. Oh no, we haven't. I'm thinking of Dominik Dijakovic. So I don't think we've actually seen him up against Damien Priest either, have we? So both, I think, mid-card titles would work on either show actually, because they'd be cool matches.
They would actually. Do you know what? I love the idea of him versus Nakamura, and I really love the idea of him versus Priest as well. That's the sort of feud that actually you're going to build one of them further as a star going forward. And the way Priest is being booked currently at the minute, that would just put even more rocket on Damien Priest, that main event scene that we were discussing earlier in the video. CM Nation Dog, we're going to try and now wrap this up in about 10 minutes, guys and girls. So literally, what questions we've got in, we will answer. And if we do miss it, then we are very, very sorry. So it's going to be rapid fire for the rest here. CM Nation Dog doesn't care. WWE thinks Ric Flair is a 16-time world champion in WWE. He's held WCW and NWO World Championships. John Cena's had the most in WWE. That is true, but they still have the same amount of championships overall. But I totally get the point. John Cena is the record of WWE championships. There's definitely no argument for that. Best in the World has seen advertised as well for Progress Wrestling in the UK. That's great to see that coming back because Progress Wrestling does some fantastic stuff when we get the chance to see that. I believe some of that's on the network as well, which is something I need to watch more of, actually. We'll definitely we have to get bit more invested in that. Got a feeling that Becky Lynch can't wrestle right now. That's why they made the match short. Should not have happened. Well, that's an idea as well, because Becky Lynch, like you say, can be, fit if you want, but ring sharpness is something as well. And I mean, they knew that she was coming back for SummerSlam, but it was a last-minute decision that she won the SmackDown Women's Championship. Do you think that that's a really key point that CM Nation Dog has just made there, that perhaps maybe she needs a bit more time to get more ring ready, and perhaps by Extreme Rules, we'd really have that 15, 20-minute classic?
Yeah. That again relates back to what I said earlier. I think there is the possibility that they weren't prepared for the Sasha Banks, timeout. So they might have had to rush forward with plans and then had to rewrite that altogether. Maybe, who knows? But that could be one thing. I mean, like you said, she's obviously going to have had training. You've seen her working out in the gym through Instagram and stuff like that. But actual ring ready, it's a bit like we said earlier, a bit like football. You know, you're not match ready until you've played a few matches. So, and I'm sure the same goes in wrestling. You know, you can't just go on and put a 20-minute classic on after you've been out for over a year.
Absolutely not. And of course, that'll be interesting to know with CM Punk this Sunday as well there. But Sinister Dog is good with the stats. He says Becky Lynch has held more world titles than Seth Rollins by one more than Seth Rollins. Interesting note for those on their trivia. That's one for you. Best in the world, Deonna Purrazzo, best performer at the moment. Would you agree on that, guys? I think she's killing it at the moment. I'm going to start off by saying yes, 100%. In fact, in Daniel Bryan terms, yes, best performer at the moment. She's absolutely killing it, in my opinion. She's showing why WWE should never have released her. James, what's your opinion on this?
I don't watch a great deal of Impact. I know she's been getting a lot of praise, but for me, it'd be Bianca. I think Bianca was absolutely smashing it in WWE, to be honest with you. And I'll tell you a little bit of praise for Raquel Gonzalez as well, actually, because I never expected her to be doing as well as what she's doing. I'm not saying she's the best performer. Again, I'd still actually say Bianca is, for me personally. Imagine them two actually fighting, Bianca and Purrazzo.
I would be all down for that all day long. Someone open that forbidden door, damn it. I need to see that match. DWE is in the house. He says, good evening all. Hope you're doing very well, sir. And it's great to have you on the stream. And as well, we've got JF in the house with us now. Where's the M missing at the start of that name? Is Daniel Bryanson, or Bryan Danielson, I should say, debuting at All Out? I'm going to stick out my neck and go, yes. What's your thoughts, James?
Yeah, 100%. As I said earlier, I think he'll be... With the New Japan connection, I think he will be involved somewhere. Maybe not physical. He might just come out and have eyes on someone, but I think he'll be involved in the Moxley match. Interesting.
That's a really interesting take there. Like you said, the New Japan stuff there. And just to see the stare down, perhaps with Moxley after the match. Oh, that would be quite fun to see. It's a different take to what I predicted. I predicted staring down Kenny Omega after the championship match. So I like it. I like it a lot there. We'll have to see what's going to happen this Sunday. But thanks for the question there. Cinnation Dog, Josh Alexander should win the Impact World title and retain the X Division Championship at Bound for Glory. Now, that is a great match idea there. I'm a big fan of Josh Alexander. Have you had much chance to check some of his work out?
Yeah, I liked him. What was the tag team? That was Josh Alexander and the guy who is
Ethan Page.
Yeah, Ethan Page. I can't remember what their names. Did they have a tag team name?
They did. The North.
The North, of course. Yeah. Yeah, I used to love their matches. I thought they were awesome. I mean, Ethan Page is another one relating back to the story that keeps doing the rounds here. Another one who's now already lost in the mix, really, in AEW, in my opinion. Who should be doing a lot more. But yeah, Josh Alexander, I think he's awesome. I think he's really good. I like his character. I like his style. Don't know whether he's quite ready for the world title yet, but certainly in the mix.
Certainly one for the mix that I'd like to see him in amongst it. Like you say, perhaps just a bit too early, but you know what? Start of the year, hard to kill. That's going to be my place to book it, because I tell you what, Josh Alexander could be Impact's version to the next Kurt Angle, because he's that darn good. Honestly, really, really is. Right, we're going to do a couple more questions, and then we're going to call it quits. Best in the world. Would you book CM Punk versus Darby Allin to start All Out to get the crowd pumped and have Omega Christian to finish with Daniel Bryanson debut? Start hot, finish hot. Been thinking about this. James, what's your take on this? I gave my take on this yesterday.
I think they'll probably start with CM Punk and Darby. I think, yeah, just get that crowd. And the problem is they're going to be, it's the worst thing to be is the match after whoever CM Punk's fighting. I don't think they'll leave that till the last one. I'd probably start with that and then end with Omega and Christian.
Interesting.
How about you?
I had it on the stream yesterday. CM Punk Darby Allin was the main event of the stream. That was the main event match that I had, because AEW have done times where the AEW Championship has not main evented the show. But of course, when you have Bryan Danielson debuting, there is a big reason to make it in the show. But we are in Chicago, CM Punk's hometown. You're going to want people to wait for this. Do you want them to burn out too soon? Chicago's not a town known for it, but Rampage, the rest of that show, they did burn out a bit. So I respect that opinion. I think it's a great take. I mean, one thing's for sure, CM Punk isn't going to be in the toilet break areas of matches. He's going to be at the starting match, the ending match or like the sub main event. He's not going to be somewhere, match 2 or 5 on the card. He's going to be somewhere it's going to be of importance. So that thing is for sure. But we'll have to wait and see this Sunday.
You're going to have that crowd chanting his name from the off, bear in mind.
Yeah.
So I think the second you get that massive pop, then I don't think you'll have, because you don't want that to ruin other matches. You don't want the attention to be away from whoever's fighting and you're just listening to the crowd chanting CM Punk. So that's my fault. I think they'll get it out of the way early.
It's very interesting philosophy indeed. That I do agree with that idea. So we'll have to wait and see this Sunday. But it's a great question. I really like that one a lot there. And CNS Dog, I'd like to see King Nakamura become a double champion with the SmackDown Tag Team Championships with Rick Boogs. They did beat the 2-time tag champions, the Dirty Dogs. Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of Boogs. I liked what he's done in the ring so far. I love with the entrance. I love when Pat McAfee's there and they go absolutely mental. I'm not a big fan always of double champions, but certainly could be a food for thought because they must be doing this for a reason of having keep having tag team matches.
Yeah, definitely. And it's more of an introduction to him as well, isn't it, as a wrestler? Because I don't even think he'd done that many matches in NXT, if any. So, yeah, I mean, I love the whole dynamic of it as well. I think it's really good, especially with Pat McAfee on the table dancing and air guitar. So, yeah, I think it's a really good mix, but not sure about the double champion.
No, we'll have to wait and see as it will work out. But just to say that CNation Dog actually does know a lot of wrestling history because he has it in his head. Ask him a question and he thinks he can answer it. So, yeah, anyone wants to do that, feel free to in the comment section below and we can see a little fun sort of thing going on with you guys down there. But we're going to do the last couple of questions now. We're going to start off now with Ibby B. Favorite wrestlers at the moment, guys? Hers is I believe, is Hangman Page. So, James, who's your favorites at the minute?
Oh, God, you've put me on the spot there.
Sorry about
that. Hangman is a great shout, though. I mean, he is really good. I do like Hangman. Who for me? It's really hard to say for me, really, because I don't watch it avidly as much as I used to. It's kind of clips here and there. Yeah, I probably agree with Ibby. I think Hangman he's pretty good.
Hangman is pretty good. Hangman is definitely my answer for AEW. This is now I'm going to show the geek side of me now. Impact Wrestling, Deonna Purrazzo. NXT, Io Shirai. WWE, let's go for AJ Styles. And yeah, those will be my answers for you there on that particular. If there's any other companies, then feel free to give a shout in there.
But favorite at the moment. So all of them ones you just listed, still favorites at the moment, as in
at the moment. If I had to pick one, now you really put me on the spot. I will go with AJ Styles. I just can't ignore what AJ Styles does in the ring each and every time. Still wows me as a performer. And I know he's going towards the end of his career, but I still thoroughly enjoy watching an AJ Styles match.
Do you know what I'm going to say, actually? And it's an interesting one. Seth Rollins, I think his character work at the moment is really good. I love the whole suit thing. I loved his storyline with Edge. And I thought there was a lot of similarities. I know they kind of played on that with them too. But I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, fantastic work indeed. Then a great question there, and thank you very much, Ibby, for that one there. And we've got here Best of the World saying Bryan Danielson, Jonathan Gresham, Pure Rules match in the Forbidden Door. Please sign me up. I would love it. James, would you love it as well?
I have no idea who Jonathan Gresham is.
Ring of Honor. He's a great technical wrestler. Honestly, right. If you enjoy technical wrestling, these two would do a great match. If they ever do it, I'll send you a link and we'll make sure that can you can check that one out. And
I honestly thought he was some sort of commentator, but I think I'm thinking of Todd. Was there
Todd Gresham? Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
We'll book that as well.
Get him out of wherever he's in.
Definitely be in that. And also Bryan Danielson versus Kota Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom. We'd also love to see it. And James, this is going to be one close to your heart here, I think. Brock Lesnar's new look is actually decent. Giving the Viking vibe to him, what do you think he'll be as a babyface? Well, first off, discuss Brock's new look here, because you've got quite a keen eye for the Viking look.
Well, I did until they looked at me like I was some sort of puny human. Brock's look, it's different, isn't it? It's more the hair, I think, than anything. I think if he even had his old hair with his little beard or whatever, then he'd look fine. But it's just the hair that's quite disturbing. As a babyface, it'd just be weird because it'll mean he needs to talk a bit more. So promo work's going to be interesting more than anything.
I'm interested to see it. We've not seen babyface Brock now since the mid 2000s or the early 2000s, if you want. Probably looking like 2003, probably that sort of area. So it's a long time since we've seen it. So I'm interested to see what we're going to get from it. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what it's going to be. But yeah, we've got Ron Gresham. Yeah, indeed. But we certainly enjoyed that indeed there. And Best of World says great Q&A, guys. Found Steve on my timeline on YouTube and love your reviews, dude. Hope you're well and keep up the good content, bro. Well, thank you so much for checking out the stream. Best in the World 1989, also on YouTube as well. Fantastic channel. Go and check it out. And just to say very quickly, we're going to just do a couple of last quick ones, very, very quick ones, because yeah, it's getting a bit late now. Rich Swan and Willie Mack for Impact tag team title win is long overdue. Would certainly love to see it as well. Thank you so much, EBB. Really appreciate the subscribe. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching as well. We hope you've have enjoyed the rest of your Wednesday as well. Sination Dog 1989 Ring of Honor ain't doing the Forbidden Door with AEW. Maybe at some point in the future. You never know. We would never rule it out. It could still happen. And our last one that we're going to do for us here today is the reason why the Fiend Alexa Bliss gimmick is still going with it is because young fans are buying Lily, but the rest of the audience doesn't like it, which I think we said earlier on, they're doing well with those dolls. They're doing pretty well with that. But that's pretty much everything. But just before we go, I titled this video after Braun Strowman with not I'm just going to talk about Braun Strowman very quickly with you, Jay, and get your thoughts on this. He has released what he's going to be doing next in the future, Braun Strowman. It's a video package to do with EC3, Ethan Carter III. Of course, WWE fans, do they remember him? Of course, it's been control your own destiny sort of thing. And they've got a video package thing that's been advertised for the start of October. It's a really cool looking video package. I'd recommend people go and check it out on Twitter if they haven't seen it already. Have you?
I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I did saw a report that he'd posted the video and that it was for an event he signed up to do his first fight, basically. Apparently him and him and EC3 are really good friends. And that's why I assume he's got this gig. Isn't EC3 in Ring of Honor at the moment?
He is indeed, yes.
He is. So,
yes.
I mean, potentially, but I just, to be honest, I can't see anyone, unless he takes a massive pay cut, I can't see anyone really being able to afford to have him on like a full contract. So it might just be appearances and playing that kind of free agent role and just popping up here, there for a few weeks here and a few weeks there. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, it's funny because now when I think of EC3, I think of him as the failed project in WWE. Whereas I know he was obviously a big star in Impact. I don't really know what he's doing in Ring of Honor. I know he's there, but I couldn't tell you how well he's doing.
No.
What are your thoughts on it?
Sorry, Jay, I need that one more time, please.
What are your thoughts on the whole program?
It certainly took me by surprise. I was expecting a lot of rumors that suggested Braun Strowman would be going to Impact Wrestling, so that's what I was expecting to be breaking on this evening. But that didn't happen. And just to say, it's called The Narrative. That's what that's going to be all about. So that's going to be interesting to see because EC3 has done this control your narrative since leaving WWE. Like you say, it's been a bit of a failed experiment. It's a shame to see because EC3 so much potential, great mic work, great look of what you think Vince McMahon would go for. So yeah, it's a shame that it's not quite worked out for him. But I enjoyed his work that he's doing elsewhere. I'm interested to see where this is going to lead to. Like you say, I think it's going to be like a handful of appearances. I don't think it's going to be him going to Ring of Honor or anything like that. But certainly, it's good to know that they're good friends and certainly something exciting indeed there. But certainly am loving it. But just to say, Best of the Word does say control your own narrative. Exactly. That seems what it's based about. And he does go on to say as our final comment, hope you both enjoy AEW tonight. If you're watching live, stay safe. And I hope you stay safe as well. We're both on UK time zone, so there's a chance I probably will be tomorrow that we'll be watching that show. But definitely hope you enjoy it. Hope that everyone enjoys the rest of the day. But just before we go, James, tell everyone about this.
This week in Metropolis, yeah. It's a podcast all about pop culture. We talk films, movies, games, technology, anything geeky, really. If you're a geek, you'll love it. Sadly, we don't talk a great deal about wrestling unless it's about John Cena's terrible acting. We've had guests on from TV, from talent shows, from music, from gaming, from comedy. So yeah, season 8 will be starting in a couple of weeks. So, but all of the back catalogue, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, This Week in Metropolis. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, so get subscribing.
Absolutely. I'll put the link in the description as well for the YouTube channel. So people go over to that, click that link, hit subscribe as well. They're very close to hitting 100 subscribers. That'd be fantastic if they could hit that milestone. Go and check out some fantastic episodes available for you as well if you're into that sort of pop culture stuff. There's great stuff, whether it's, going on the Marvel side, whether it's comics, whether it's, PlayStation, Xbox, technology, all the sorts of stuff there. And even I got to go on an episode in season 4. So you can go in the archives and check that one out as well if you want to.
Come and watch that one.
Absolutely. So do recommend it. But James, thank you so much for taking the time out on your Wednesday to come and join us here on SCW Live. It's been great to have you on board. And hopefully we'll do this again in the future. Yeah,
thanks, Steve. Thanks. Appreciate you having me. If you can just send the money in the post, that'd be great.
I'll do the way the modern kids are doing it, I think. So but I will say is if you're first time watching here on SCW, then please like the video, share as well, subscribe, leave a comment afterwards as well. Helps the algorithms out as well. It's a bit boring, I know, but it definitely helps the channel a long way. So really please leave a comment after this video has gone off as well. And we'll be back on the weekend with the regular Ask SCW. It'll be 97 in the series. You can maybe follow me on Twitter. You can see the Twitter handle is there for you there at SCW_Steve. And then you can drop a question, leave the hashtag AskSCW, and know to give you a shout out in that episode. There are other videos to go and check out as well. In fact, IBB said there as well. AEW All Out predictions are available for you right now for this Sunday. Go and check them out. I was joined by WrestleMania UK. And SCW Rewind will be returning as well very shortly. The winner of the poll I can give to you now is No Mercy 2007. So that will be the next SCW Rewind, which of course featured 3 WWE Championship matches in one night and also 3 WWE Championship title changes as well. But that's all from us, mate. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a great day. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube. And hang on, we're going to just leave one last question here. James, are you a fan of The Walking Dead?
No, but I'm going to start watching it.
Interesting. Keep an eye out there. You never know. This week in Metropolis, he might be talking about it in the next couple of weeks. Keep an eye out for that there. Best in the world. Maybe you might even get a shout out as well. But in full Orange Cassidy style, take care. All the best. Have yourselves a good one. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube.